And here we go. Today, we have a very special guest in the house. We have somebody who I'm going to introduce here in just a second. But before I do, she is somebody that has an amazing heart. She is somebody that I've gotten to know very well. She is somebody that when she says she's going to do something, she does it. And she is also somebody who has successfully written a best-selling book. So without further ado, let me talk to you and introduce you to Mary-Theresa Tringale, aka Mary, aka MT for short. And Mary is a success coach, best-selling author, and certified practitioner in NLP, hypnotherapy, EFT tapping, time techniques, life and success coaching, who loves nothing more than cheering others on. After her own radical transformation in 2019, MT launched her coaching business with her signature program, the Aligned and Empower Project, in 2020 to coach others through their own breakthroughs and to find their true life's purpose. After taking a leap of faith, MT moved from the Boston area to New York City and landed what turned into a nearly 8-year career in the magazine publishing industry. MT again picked up her life and moved to the other Portland in nearby Maine with nothing but faith that her next big move was destined for her there. And she was right. Since 2014, MT has worked full-time in marketing and events and most recently found her true calling in launching her coaching business. She wants to remind others that they are not alone in their journey and are already equipped with everything they need to stand in their power. Today, MT is still on her journey of growth and expansion right alongside her clients. She holds a BS in marketing communications from Emerson College, and when she's not making earrings, at I am Auntie Mary on Instagram, MT can be found moving outdoors, walking, skiing, kayaking, and spending time with her friends, family, especially her nieces and nephew. So, MT, welcome to
Wow.
the show. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you for that whole entire introduction. That was awesome.
And we ain't leaving anything out over here in the Big Idea to Bestseller podcast. So, I want to kick things off. You've had an adventure here. All right. You've had an
Mm,
amazing adventure and an amazing story. And, when we first met, we met in Jessica DeRose, right? Her Elevate program. And you were doing a lot of different things. And the
mm.
evolution that you've had since we first met has been remarkable, let alone writing a best-selling book in that process. But just talk to us to get things started on what has been your core philosophy that has enabled you to create this amazing business, write this amazing,
Mm.
and help so many amazing women.
Oh, wow. What a question. I would say that this idea of alignment is probably the thing that I have held most true to my value system that has allowed me to step into this world, and keep on going and keep on growing and keep on expanding because I think, and it's actually the foundation of the program that you mentioned, the Aligned and Empowered Project, which was the foundation of the book. And it is the thing that just keeps me grounded as I continue to see what's out there for me in the world. And it truly didn't even become clear to me that that was something that I was missing until I found it. So the best way that I can describe to people, if you are out of alignment, if it feels like something's not quite right. And you might be living a life where everything seems like it should be right. Like you have the job that you always dreamed of. You're living in the environment that you always wanted to be. You have a great home. You have a great relationship. All of these things might seem like they should be fine, but you're not quite there or feeling quite right. That is an indication that things are out of alignment. And that's really the foundational work that I do with so many of my clients, is helping you get into that place of alignment, because it's kind of like once you get there, clarity comes alongside that, and then you start to see the next step and the next step and the next step. And that's really what has allowed me to get here. So where we are today is that I'm full-time in my business as a success coach, which when I started writing the book, that was the long term, that was the 9-month plan from that point that we started writing together. That was that someday soon I'm going to be in this place where I'm going to be doing this work full time. And now I'm here. but I had to allow a lot of stuff to reveal itself to me in that process. And that started with doing the work to get into alignment so that I could just open up the space to see, oh, I'm supposed to be, oh, all these people are asking me for life coaching support and I'm not even a life coach. Maybe I should be. Maybe I should explore what that looks like. Maybe I can step into this world. Oh, people want to talk to me about habits and accountability. Maybe that's the next thing for me. Oh, people want to learn about how I became so happy and aligned with money. Maybe I could talk about that now. So, oh, there's this whole thing about the subconscious mind and working with the subconscious mind called NLP. Maybe I need to do that. And that's really truly how the whole book thing happened for me too, because you did the present. I knew that you were an author. I knew that you had already done these written, you were in the midst of your third book when we met. And I knew that that was a thing that could possibly happen in the future. But by showing up for the thing at the time, which was showing up for a call in this program that I was investing in, where you did a presentation on a book, it was kind of like, click, that's what's next. And if I hadn't been in a place where I had a solid foundation of understanding who I am and where I want to head, and had the space to even receive your information, I wouldn't have even heard the voice or felt the click of the alignment when you started talking about what a book could do, or what a book meant for your business. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it answered great. And something that you mentioned there that I find interesting is like being able to receive information, right? I think that, when you look at the online coaching space, when you look at the thought leader space, when you look at parents even, right? Everybody says similar things. But only when you are ready to receive that information at that moment in time will it actually click for you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've come to my mom and been like, Mom, guess what I learned today? And I'll tell her the thing I learned. And she goes, Jake, I've told you this 25 million times throughout your childhood. I'm like,
Right.
no, you didn't. And she goes, yes, I did. But it took me until that moment for it to finally click. But I think that moment came faster because I had my mom who planted the seed.
Yeah.
And so as you're talking about all this stuff, being open to this receiving of information, being in alignment with yourself, that all boils down to the title of your book, which is How to Stand in Your Power. So what is Stand in Your Power? What is the book about? Tell us all about it.
It's so funny. I did Stand in Your Power. The title of the book came from a speech that I did as the president of the Maine Women's Conference, which was an organization that I helped create and build. And it was the second year that I got to do the keynote speech as the president. And the first year, I referred back to who I was the first year. And the first year I was somebody who was holding it all together as best I could, but not completely honest with myself about where I was, where I wanted to go, and what I was doing with my life. I was doing the best I could, but I wasn't completely honest with myself. And so I felt like standing in my power meant that I'm okay with not being at my 100% capacity. But I know that everything that I'm doing here is coming from the most authentic, grounded, truest self that I can put forward. And so that's what Stand in Your Power was really all about. And so this process that I walk you through in the book is allowing yourself the freedom to be perfectly imperfect while also doing the absolute best that you can every single day. And that, to me, for me in my world, that started with having daily habits, or whatever you want to call it, ritual every day, something that gives you structure in your life every day. Because I truly believe, and not everybody's like this, so I understand that this doesn't work for everyone, but I have seen it work for many different types of people with my clients in the program. But there's freedom in structure. I truly, truly believe that. And when you can create these daily habits that kind of bring you back to yourself, whether they are habits that bring you into your body, whether they're habits that get you outside with nature, whether they're habits that connect you with your subconscious, whatever that may be, it allows you to kind of have this like solid starting point every day where you can grow from. Now, every day, the habits may not be perfect. Every day may not be as what we call in the AEP, and I didn't put this in the book, a green day. You may get a win for the day, but it might have been like a big struggle to get that win in. And that's okay. I think that that's the process. Like standing in your power is like at the end of the day, you say, you know what, this day was a shit show, but I got it done and I'm proud of myself. And I got to the end of the day and I stood in my integrity. I spoke my truth all day long. I was my truth all day long. And that's what matters. And now I get to go to bed and start again tomorrow. And to me, that is the truth of standing in your power.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned the habits. And I know you're a big habits. I mean, you talk about 75 hard and how much of an impact that's had on your life. And habits played a big role while you were writing this book. And so I kind of want to ask you this, which is how were you able to, you were working a full-time job, you were a support coach in another program, you were running AEP, and you were writing your book at the same time. So how did you implement everything that you teach in the book? But how did you implement that while you were actually writing the book so that you could get your rough draft done in, I think what you'd said was 27 days or something? Like, how did you implement the habits to do this? Because I think this is a really tangible example of how you practice what you preach.
Yeah, I would say, so first of all, accountability. And the human accountability, not just and I had a tracker. I had my own book tracker as well. I am a very visual person, so I had a piece of paper as my accountability tracker, but I also had a friend, Andi, who I was checking in with every day to tell her about that I did the work. So that's number one. Number two, I had to schedule it in. My calendar is my safety net, and I schedule in everything every 15 minutes. Every minute of my day is scheduled accordingly, including miscellaneous time, including free time, including time for like a buffer, right? Like I schedule everything in, and I had to because my job was incredibly busy during that time. So number one, I got accountability, human accountability. Number two, I had scheduled it all in. Number three, and I would say this is the most important part, the time that I was scheduling in was 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes. That's it. And some days when I had more time, I would write more. But what got me down in front of my computer every day was I only have to sit here for 15 minutes. I put my timer on and 15 minutes was the commitment. And some days that 15 minutes didn't happen until 8:30 at night. Sometimes that 15 minutes would happen at 6 o'clock in the morning. It just depended on what the schedule was that I had that day. But it wasn't, I wasn't committing to 2 hours a day. I wasn't committing. And for me, because of my life and my schedule and what I had going on, 15 minutes was what I could spare Monday through Friday. On the weekends, I probably did schedule in a little more time for that. And every time that I sat down and wrote, very rarely did I stop at that 15-minute mark, because I might have been in the middle of a thought. I might have like, once I sat down, I was in the flow, whatever it might have been. I let myself be there for that 15 minutes. And once the timer went off, I let myself do whatever I needed to do there. And the reason I'm saying 15 minutes is because sometimes we don't get started because we feel like it's too much. Or we put off a task because we know that once we get into it, it's going to take us 3 hours. And let me just do this last thing before I sit down. Let me just do this one little thing. Let me just do this one. And we constantly are finding other things to do instead of just like sitting down and letting the thing happen. So when I said 15 minutes, it was a minimal commitment that I had to make every day to myself to get that done. And it was something that I could manage at the time in my head, and it was something I could definitely schedule in. Um, and I would put the timer on because that was my signal to my brain. Okay, it's 15 minutes. Just sit down and sit here for the 15 minutes and let it happen. And you get to be done after it. It was kind of that permission granted before I even got started every time. And it was just this mind game that I was playing with myself each time. And like I said, most times I would go for another good 5-10 minutes based on whatever it was that I was doing in that time. For sure.
Here's what's so cool about this is you found a way to make it happen, right? And we talk about it, human accountability. We talk about it, putting it in the calendar. Talk about it, whatever time you can allocate to allocate. And there's a book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, and he talks about this concept in it of doing 2 push-ups a day, right? And you're like, 2 push-ups, is that going to do anything? No, but more often than not, once you do 2, you're going to do 5 to 10 more. Maybe you'll do 20 more. But 2 is the baseline. And so as you're writing this book, and I love how we're giving like a really good example of like what you teach people, because you are a living example of like literally doing everything. And we're going to get into another concept here soon, but when you are doing all this, how did you honor the commitment to yourself to keep showing up? Because look, as much as we make writing books easier for other people and we made it easier for you to do, it still ain't that easy. It's still a hard thing that you have to show up and commit. So how did you stay committed to yourself in this process?
So everybody, I think, gets driven by a different type of accountability, and my accountability, and I don't know if this will be forever, but the best way for me to honor that commitment is to make it public so that I know that other people are watching. And I started talking about writing this book on social media day one that I committed to you, I'm pretty sure. And every day I shared that tracker. Every day I shared the tracker with a quick little snippet of what I wrote that day. And by making that commitment public, it allowed me, people were asking me, I would see them and they'd be like, you're writing a book right now? It's like, yeah, now I have to stick to this commitment. Now, maybe other people believe that you shouldn't have to put it out there into the world and have other people hold that expectation of you in order to stick to your commitments. Good for you. Good for you. And if that works for you, great. Doesn't work for me. I got to talk about this stuff with other people. And I hear Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, says sometimes, don't tell people about your idea until you do it. And for me, that doesn't work. I got to tell you because that's how I stay committed, because I don't want to give up on it. I don't want to just float away. That is actually an old habit of mine, that I would start something, share it socially, and then I disappear. And then it was like, didn't you start this thing? And they'd be like, yeah. And kind of a little bit of shame around like how I started this thing and I didn't finish. And that is such a huge part of my value system, that I walk my talk, and that I commit and I finish the stuff that I say I'm going to start. And if I have to stop, that there's a really, really good reason for it. Like I actually just had to stop a round of 75 hard because I got COVID. So, and there's a good excuse and a good reason for me to finish it. And I also shared that publicly. So it's just, that was the biggest way that I could honor this commitment that I made to myself, was by sharing it with my community and then showing up, not just for that was how I showed up for myself, I should say, by showing up for the people that I serve, the people I want to help, the people I want to help, show them what's possible in the world.
And this did something even more than just helping you stay committed, right? By posting about it as you went along through this process, not only did you stay committed, but you had people starting to inquire about your work, inquire about the release date. And so when you launched the book, it wasn't a surprise. Oh, hey, here's a book. It's finally here. And that led you to getting 50 plus ratings and 5-star reviews, #1 bestseller in categories. Like, you crushed this thing. And posting along the way did all of that, right? It helped you stay accountable. It helped build the awareness. It got you people excited about your launch. And that's really cool. But there's one thing that we have to talk about here in the final part of today's conversation. And that's, we've talked about a few words over and over again: being, right? You've talked about you have to be the person, you have to be ready for this. You've talked about doing the work in order to have the things that you want. And so this is a big philosophy that you talk about in the book, and it's a big thing, and it's called be, do, have. Can you
Mhm.
explain to us what be, do, have really means and why we should give a shit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it is I mean, it's chapter one. It's the biggest shift I've ever had in my life, is that you can't, so many of us grow up with this pre-programming that the only way to be wealthy is to have a lot of money first, and the only way to be happy is to have the big house and the perfect relationship and the perfect job first. And it's actually not that way, and this goes all the way back to like the law of attraction and having a high vibe and basically manifesting the life that you want. And the way in which this the energy of the world works is that you have to have the high vibe first. So you have to be the person you want to be first. And sometimes that takes some work to figure out how do you do being, right? How do you be the person you want to be? And the best way that I've ever heard it is, if you want to be somebody who has, for example, a best-selling book, how do you embody that first? What is that person doing every day already? So then you're waking up in the morning, you're like, I'm somebody who's a best-selling author, so what do I do? What are those actions that already align with this person that I'm already being? This bestseller is going to ask people to write a review when they say that they loved the book. This bestseller is going to get a blow up of the book so that she remembers who she is. That's what I have behind me, listener. And this bestseller is going to not apologize for sharing every single step of the process, but I have to embody that stuff, right? So I have to be confident. What is a bestseller? How is she being? She's being confident. She's being comfortable in her skin. She's being ready to receive the great ratings, right? I have to be open to receive that. I have to be ready to commit to the schedule that it's going to take. And there's a lot of things that you can say about who this person is in the journey. And it's something that you have to like, it's a hard one to talk about, but because it truly is this embodying experience of how do you feel in your body and what words do you associate with that? I hope that answered it. It's
It's
a hard one.
It's so good though, because, and this is what you teach in your program. This is one of the first chapters,
Mhm.
if not, I think you mentioned the first chapter in your book. Like, this is such a pillar to becoming, where we started this, aligned, right? And this is
It's,
so,
yeah.
so, so critical. And we're not going to spoil anything else for everyone. Everyone can go get your book and go check it out. And so, MT, how do we get your book? How do we connect with you? How do we continue to learn from you? And how do we work with you? Give us all the goods.
Well, connect with me on Instagram is where I hang out the most. It is at Mary.Theresa.Tringale. And I do generally have a link in my bio for you to buy the book directly. Right now, I have something else there, but it should be there. If not, DM me. I will send you that link. Otherwise, you can search for it on Amazon. Stand in Your Power, Mary-Theresa Tringale. And the best way to connect with me is on Instagram. I'm also present on LinkedIn and Facebook as well.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Now, for everybody that's listening right now, do yourself a favor and grab MT's book. Just do it, okay? Because when she talks about these concepts, like, she knows what she's talking about. And as you've heard in this interview, she lives everything out. She does what she teaches, and that's so rare to find right now, when there's so many people that are just regurgitating information that they hear, claiming to be an expert, but they've never actually done the work. MT has done the work in so many ways. I mean, she's got NLP, hypnotherapy, EFT, all these other things, and she really cares about you. And this book just embodies everything that you are, MT. And so if you're listening, go grab a copy of that book. And after you grab a copy of your book, post a picture on social media about that you have the book, because we'd love to see you share that book, because then more people can be inspired. And that's one of the beautiful things about being an author. When you get to have your book picked up by a random stranger, that gets shared on social media, that leads to somebody else hearing of you and buying your book, that is the ripple effect in action. That is the cat's pajamas. That is the bee's knees. That is what we aim to do, is to make an impact through a message that we have, through experiences that we lived, to help create a better world for everyone to live in. So make sure to grab MT's book, check her out, and I will see you all on the next episode. Thank you so much, MT, for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thank you.